Happy Monday, everyone. If you're watching this on Monday, or good morning, good afternoon, just hi. So, this week we will be starting our first project, which will be officially announced on Tuesday. But for now, we're going to start learning about the elements of art. The elements of art are the building blocks to make art. So, let's jump into it. Okay, so our essential question for the few weeks as we learn about all of these elements is, how do artists use the elements of art to convey a meaning, message, or thought into their artwork? So how do artists use all of these different building blocks and tools to make intentional and meaningful work? So it's different from just drawing what you see and what's in your head. It's a purpose. There is a reason behind all of these elements that they're including in their art. So the goal for today is for all of you to be able to say, today I will be able to practice using art vocabulary to explain why I like a certain work of art. Specifically, we will be focusing on the word line today. But there are 7 elements of art, so there are 7 elements that are essential to art making. Not every artwork features all 7 of these elements, clearly, and that's okay. It's important to know what these elements are so we can describe and talk about art, whether it's about your own or a piece that you like. So the 7 elements are line, shape, color, value, texture, space, and form. But this week, we will just be focusing on line. So a line is a path made by a moving point through space. It is one-dimensional and can vary in width, direction, and length. It is essentially a mark on a surface. So a line can be any length, any shape, shape. It can be straight, wavy, maybe a little angled. It can even be a dot. One dot counts as a line too, because that's a mark, and it's always flat. So, who are some artists that use lines in their work? While we look at these artwork, you're going to see other elements too, but we're focusing on line. First artist is Vincent van Gogh. I'm sure a lot of you are aware of who he is or have seen some of his famous paintings before. So Vincent van Gogh was a famous painter who worked in the post-impressionist art style, which are paintings that were bold and expressed the artist's thoughts and emotions through color, texture, and lines. After experimenting with many different art mediums, Van Gogh picked up painting and focused on creating work that was intense in color and emotive, which you can see in the portrait, a self-portrait he made. So the line work here, all of the waves you see in the background, those are all lines. Just wavy, curly lines with a brush stroke. The texture in his hair, like how you can feel all of the strands, those are all lines. The texture in his face, and most obviously all of the shadows and movement in his clothes. Obviously, the colors create a mood in itself, but the lines create this sense of movement in a piece that is obviously still. You will be getting this presentation by itself in not a video format. So click on the link right down here if you want to learn more about him. But here are some of his other paintings. The one on the left is one that isn't as famous, but you can see all of the little lines that he layered on top of each other to create those light and shadows that we talked about before. You see that in the floor, the grass, and the bushes. Even in the flowers, how light color is placed on top of dark to create a flower shape, and lots of texture, which is clearly seen in this famous painting, the Starry Night. The lines not only add a lot of texture, but movement again, and it's all over the painting. Yeah. Okay, so let's learn about some artists who are alive right now that you can follow if you want, research more. They're great. The next artist that uses lines is Ronnie Quevedo. He was born in Ecuador. Quevedo works with sculpture and drawings. His work has been featured all over the country and the world, all over the United States. And he has won many awards. Creates really amazing pieces. In the back is an example of his mixed media art. And again, you can see all these lines. Unlike Van Gogh's work, his is super angular and almost mathematical. So let's look at some other examples. You should click on the link on the last slide if you want to learn more about him and the purpose of his own work. But he clearly is using lines in his work, but it has a completely different feeling from Van Gogh's work. Yes, different mediums, but also different purposes, different intentions. These lines look like they're kind of haphazardly placed, while these lines on a basketball court give me the sense that it's tracking something. Maybe you feel the same way as well. You only see 3 colors, the primary colors, which are red, blue, and yellow, and some white and black. And they're all different lines, they're all different lengths. They're going different directions. Some are tiny lines that are just right next to each other. And it has a completely different feeling. I try to find the reason why he created these pieces, but they weren't on his website. Or maybe I just couldn't find it. So if someone else finds it, let me know. I definitely want to learn even more about him because I really enjoy looking at his work. Our third artist who uses lines is Yuko Shimizu. She is a Japanese illustrator based in New York City. Yuko Shimizu blends traditional and digital art tools and techniques to create her illustrations. She has worked with many famous brands like Pepsi, Apple, Nike, Scholastic Books, and DC Comics, and many more. Click on this link to look at more of her work and all of the companies she's worked with. She's worked with so many. She's designed a few book covers, and her art is fantastic. Here are 2 examples. Again, heavy emphasis on using lines, but completely different technique, completely different feeling and vibe. Everyone's going to interpret art differently, depending on who you are, what you've experienced, and whether or not you have a cultural connection with any of these. So that's totally valid. Art is meant to be interpreted differently. So you're going to look at these 3 artists' work and write a short paragraph, just a few sentences explaining how their line work, their use of line makes you feel. And I will be writing up an example that you can read and follow that same format. This is just practice. There isn't a right or wrong way of interpreting how you feel while you're looking at artwork and paying attention to certain aspects of it. So have fun looking at more of their art. And if you have a different artist in mind who utilizes lines a lot, let me know.